you have enjoyed looking and listening to my books, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Thank you. Disney's Peter Pan, a Ladybird book, first published in 1987. Wendy Darling shared a big nursery room with John and Michael, her two young brothers. At bedtime, she would tell them wonderful stories about a faraway place called Never Never Land, where a boy called Peter Pan lived. But Wendy was growing up and was to have a proper bedroom of her own. No more stories about Peter Pan after tonight, sighed little Michael. As he spoke, the children heard a gentle tapping at the nursery window. It was Peter Pan. He had come to take the children on a flying trip to Never Never Land. "Fly?" cried Wendy. "We can't fly." "Then we'll teach you," answered Peter with a grin. "Come on in, Tink," he shouted. There was a buzzing outside the window, and in flew a tiny fairy. "I'm Peter Pan's best friend," she said proudly, "and my name's Tinkerbell. Ting-a-ling-a-ling." Peter told the children to shut their eyes and think happy thoughts. Then Tinkerbell sprinkled them with golden pixie dust, and the children suddenly found that they were flying round the nursery, bumping into walls and hitting their heads on the ceiling. And when they found that they could really fly, they left the nursery and flew about over the house. Then, following a trail of Tinkerbell's golden pixie dust, they were off and away to Never Never Land. When they arrived in Never Never Land, Peter went to check that all was well on his island. He told Tinkerbell to take the children to meet his friends, the Lost Boys. But Tinkerbell was growing jealous of Wendy. Peter Pan seemed to like this girl too much. So Tinkerbell went to tell the Lost Boys that Peter had ordered them to shoot down a bird with a girl's head. "It's called the Wendy bird," she said spitefully. As the children were flying overhead, the Lost Boys shot poor Wendy out of the sky with stones from their catapults. But Peter Pan came swooping down just in time to save her from crashing. Tinkerbell was furious. To punish her, Peter said that Tinkerbell must stay away for 8 days. She felt very sorry for herself. "Ting-a-ling-a-ling," she sniffed miserably. Peter took Wendy off to do some sightseeing, and John was left in charge of Michael and the Lost Boys. Together, the boys set out on an adventure. Their plan was to capture a band of Indian braves who lived on the island. Unfortunately, their plan didn't work, and the Indian braves captured the boys instead and took them back to the Indian village. Peter Pan had taken Wendy to a beautiful lagoon to visit the mermaids who lived there. As they sat by a rock pool, they saw a rowing boat go past. "It's Captain Hook," Peter hissed, ducking behind the rock. "And he's got Princess Tiger Lily. She's the daughter of the Indian chief. We've got to rescue her. She is my friend." Captain Hook was an evil-hearted pirate, and Peter Pan was his greatest enemy. A long time ago, in a fair fight, Peter had cut off the pirate's left hand, and afterwards the captain had screwed a horrible steel hook to his wrist. The missing hand had been eaten by a crocodile. It was such a tasty meal that Mr. Croc now followed the pirate ship wherever it went, hoping for a chance to gobble up the rest of Captain Hook. Once the crocodile had swallowed a clock, so now he made a loud tick-tock as he moved along. Peter and Wendy climbed up to the high ledge. They saw Captain Hook tying Princess Tiger Lily to a rock near the shore. "If you don't tell me where Peter Pan's secret hiding place is," they heard him snarl at the princess, "I'll leave you here on Skull Rock. And when the tide comes in, you will drown." The girl shuddered, but answered bravely, "I will never tell you, never." Peter didn't waste a second. He flew down as swift as an arrow. "You again!" howled the pirate, drawing his sword. Up and down the rocky cliffs they fought until Captain Hook lost his footing and almost fell into the sea. He had just managed to hook onto a rock, and down below he could see Mr. Croc, his jaws open wide. But Mr. Smee the boatman managed to save his master, and this made the crocodile very cross. "Next time," he muttered to himself as he ticked away, "I'll have him next time." Peter and Wendy rescued Tiger Lily from the rock and took her home. The Indian big chief was so grateful to Peter for saving his daughter that all the boys were set free and everyone got ready for a big party. After the dancing, Peter was appointed deputy big chief and a peace pipe was passed around. Even little Michael tried a puff, but it made his eyes water. So they all went back to Peter's secret cave, tired out after their adventures. Captain Hook was furious that Peter had beaten him once again. "Mr. Smee," he growled, "I have another idea for getting rid of Peter Pan. First, you must fetch Tinker Bell. I need her help." Mr. Smee sighed. Captain Hook's ideas for getting rid of Peter Pan were always a flop, but the boatman did as he was told and captured Tinker Bell, who was in a very spiteful mood. Tinker Bell was delighted when Captain Hook told her that he wanted to capture Wendy and make her into a servant to scrub and cook for the pirates. All the little fairy had to do was to tell him how to find Wendy in Peter Pan's secret hideout. Tinker Bell dipped her toes in a bottle of ink and danced across the map of Never Never Land so that her footprints showed the way to Peter's cave. Then the wicked Captain Hook put her in a glass cage and set out to capture Peter Pan. By now the children were getting homesick. Peter hated the thought of losing all his friends, but it didn't stop them from going. First the lost boys said farewell and set off to find their own homes again. And then the children turned to Peter Pan and said goodbye to Wim. Wendy was the last to leave. "I will never forget you, Peter," she said softly. "You will when you grow up," muttered Peter. "Never," answered Wendy. The pirates were hiding near Peter's cave, waiting to kidnap the children as they left. First, they captured the lost boys, then Michael, John, and Wendy, and took them off to the pirate ship. Captain Hook left a parcel on Peter's doorstep with a label that said, "To Peter from Wendy." "This should finish him off," said the pirate to himself, hurrying away as fast as he could. But Tinker Bell had seen Captain Hook wrapping the parcel, and she knew there was a bomb inside, and she had guessed that it was meant for Peter Pan. And as the children were taken onto the boat, Tinker Bell struggled and kicked inside her glass cage. Suddenly there was a crack, and the glass broke. Tinker Bell was free, and forgetting all about her jealousy, away she flew to warn Peter Pan. The pirates snarled at the children. "Either join the pirate band," they said, "or walk the plank and drown." The boys quite liked the idea of being pirates and forgot all about going home. But Wendy refused to join up, so the pirates tied her hands behind her back. Captain Hook pointed to the plank. "Off you go," he said. "Walk!" And as Wendy stepped off the end of the plank, everyone waited for the splash as she hit the water. They waited, and they waited. But the splash never came. Tinker Bell had reached Peter Pan in time to warn him about the bomb and tell him where the children were. He had arrived just as Wendy was walking the plank and had caught her before she fell into the water. Then Peter Pan fought another duel with Captain Hook. Back and forth they went, the pirate armed with a sword and the brave boy with his shining dagger. At last, when they were perched high on a mast, Captain Cook slipped. "Oh!" he screamed as he fell into the sea. "Oh, dinner time," thought Mr. Croc happily. "At last." And desperately the pirate began swimming towards Mr. Smee's little rowing boat in the distance. Mr. Croc, ticking for all he was worth, went after him. And the last time the children looked, Mr. Croc was catching up. The lost boys set out once again for home, and this time they managed to get there safely. At Peter's command, Tinker Bell scattered the pirate ship with her gold and pixie dust, and the ship soared high into the air. Soon the gangplank was stretching out to touch the nursery windowsill, and in next to no time the children were sound asleep in their own beds. The next day the children told their parents all about their adventures in Never Never Land, but the grown-ups only shook their heads and smiled. They thought it was just make-believe. But they were wrong.